What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today, I am joined once again by our wonderful co-host April Munson. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, both from the check-ins that her and I traditionally do and the interviews that we, do more often. So today is something that was really inspired from, some events that happened to myself recently. And April pretty much just drugged me kicking and screaming into the fact that I needed to record this. Not due to the fact that I didn't see value in what was going on, but due to the fact that I haven't really gotten extremely personal at all in any of the episodes and things that we've filmed up until this point. So, before we go ahead and jump in, I'm going to go ahead and kick it to April. How are you feeling today? What are you looking forward to speaking about? And yeah.
Well, I feel fine. I mean, we are 33 weeks pregnant, but I feel fine. And I'm just looking forward to watching you finally work through some of this. Yeah, I felt like by the end of our call on Saturday, I felt like I was the one kicking and screaming because I was like, why doesn't he get? He has so much potential and he's worrying about all of these things. And I even told Jay, I was like, he is so smart. I don't know why I just spent an hour telling him the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing about these epiphany moments that you're talking about and all this clarity that you have. But at the same time, I can remember, I mean, this wasn't even that long ago, a year ago, and it doesn't matter the age difference. Coming up on this time of getting ready to graduate, you have less than a month now. There is so much uncertainty. And I don't think it matters whether you're in your early 20s or you just turned 30. When you're going through that process, you feel a certain level of pressure of being like, I know what my next step is and I know why. But at the same time, Erin, you and I aren't doing the same things that normal college kids are doing. You're not kind of looking to get started in a regular corporate job. That's not really your goal. You're looking to do more. And it's hard because it's very personal to you. It's not something that anyone can really tell you. And I've learned that now after the last year of figuring this out on my own. And I remember looking for every opportunity to stay comfortable, and everyone took all of those opportunities away from me and forced me to get uncomfortable. And I can't tell you how thankful I am for that because I feel so clear in where I'm at and what I'm doing now. And I feel more free to dream and take it a step further and build it based around what I want, not what I feel like what I have to do. So I'm very much looking forward to not only like being on this journey with you, since I got to do it, a year ahead of you and give you some of that guidance. And especially since we do kind of come from a little bit of the same network, but hearing how this is for you at a different age and stage in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was really an excellent preface to everything that we're going to talk about today. Just for you guys tuned in right now, there was a video that I released on social media just here recently that I basically released, following said epiphany moment that happened to me at 3 o'clock in the morning the night before. We are going to roll that here. This is the first time we've ever done this, so I hope it works. So we're going to go ahead and roll that just for context prior to jumping into the rest of our conversation. And I suppose we're going to go ahead and do that now.
Three.
Roll the clip.
What's up, guys? So it was 3 o'clock in the morning this morning. I'm lying there wide awake in my girlfriend's grandma's spare bedroom. It feels like approximately 97 degrees in there. I'm sweating my ass off. My girlfriend's hogging the bed. My dog snuck out of the room to go get a drink, and now she's bugging me because she has to go to the bathroom. But for some reason, I have a smile on my face. Why is that? Something just dawned on me. Some old song lyrics popped into my head that I've always loved. We all have those moments where a song randomly comes into your head and you just can't get it out no matter what you do. Well, yeah, add that to my list of things going on at literally 3 o'clock in the morning on April 23rd. Anyway, the song was Where I Find God by Larry Fleet. The chorus kind of just kept replaying over and over in my head, and just for context, the chorus goes as follows. From a bar stool to that Evinrude, Sunday morning in a church pew, in a deer stand or a hayfield, in interstate back to Nashville, a Chevrolet with the windows down, me and him just riding around, and sometimes, whether I'm looking for him or not, that's where I find God. So anyway, these lyrics got me thinking, where do I find God? I've recently had a very stressful couple of days, and the other night I was praying, and I'm typically not an extremely religious guy, but I grew up in church, and I was at a point where I needed help and guidance that I couldn't really find within myself. So I had some conversations with friends and mentors, but those often just led to more stress, more anxiety, more feeling like I have millions of things to do and zero time to get them done. More weight on my chest and shoulders to carry around all day long, more feeling like I wasn't enough. So again, I was at ground zero again. So I reached out a hand, and honestly, I think I got one back. I prayed, I asked for God's support, His strength, His guidance during this difficult time in my life, because I was honestly struggling. And what I was struggling with was internal. And friends and mentors can lend any advice they want, but when you're fighting an internal battle, most often it's just you against you. And that's exactly what I was. And quite honestly, I was losing that battle. So I've fallen victim to the other half of me, the inner critic, if you will, a lot of different times in my life. And I've struggled with different mental health things for years, crippling anxiety and depression, for example. And I've always looked for my joy and happiness in things outside of myself, because anytime I looked inside, I didn't exactly like what I saw. And there's still times where I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see, but because I've neglected to look deep enough inside myself and give myself the love that I deserve, I've hit these ruts throughout my life, because I've always looked somewhere else for something I needed for myself all along. And I'm not telling you this today for you to think that it's just magically going to come, because it's not. What I'm saying is that I've realized what I need to do, and I'm still learning how to do it. Truth is, building your identity based on the perceptions and thoughts of others is kind of like building a sandcastle. And I don't mean one of those big, beautiful ones you see on the fancy beaches with multiple levels, and moats around the outside, and a cute little flag on top. No, I mean like the one you made with your plastic shovel and bucket that you got from the Dollar General. Anyway, point is that it's not structurally sound. It's not strong. It's not solid, but it's because it's not yours. Once your little mound of sand dries, the wind blows it over. Once it starts to rain, your castle crumbles. Once any extra amount of pressure is added to the foundation, your castle collapses. That's me. Because I don't know who I am. I've allowed others to shape my identity my whole life, but that's not the way it has to be, and I knew that. So I finally got sick enough of where I was, and I started carving my own path. And I was headed in the right direction, but I still didn't have the belief in myself that I needed. So it was only a matter of time. Small roadblocks were minor and could be worked through, but any larger setbacks or issues often left me in shambles. And I was still looking for other people to tell me how strong I was, how well I was doing, who I was, and who I was going to become. And tonight it finally hit me that they're never going to be able to tell me those things. Who I am and who I'm going to become is something that only I can decide. So where do I find God? I've allowed others to shape my identity my whole life, but that's not the way it has to be, and I knew that. So I finally got sick enough of where I was, and I started carving my own path. And I was headed in the right direction, but I still didn't have the belief in myself that I needed. So it was only a matter of time. Small roadblocks were minor and could be worked through, but any larger setbacks or issues often left me in shambles. And I was still looking for other people to tell me how strong I was, how well I was doing, who I was, and who I was going to become. And tonight it finally hit me that they're never going to be able to tell me those things. Who I am and who I'm going to become is something that only I can decide. So where do I find God? At 3 o'clock in the morning, wide awake in my girlfriend's grandma's spare bedroom where it's 97 degrees and my dog has to pee. I find him at ground zero. I find him every time I need picked up. I find him everywhere I'm willing to let him in. Now the question is, why do we have to break ourselves down to such a point that we're just about ready to give in before we're willing to ask for help? It doesn't necessarily have to be from God, but like I've told you, I'm not even a really religious person anyway, but what I needed was something spiritual. And I had to find something within myself to motivate me to get back up. I had to find something to rekindle my fire and remind me why I started on this journey in the first place. And that's exactly what he showed me. In a world where everyone's a creator and everyone has a voice, it's hard to hear your own through all the noise, but your own is the one you need to get comfortable listening to. That's what you need to take care of the most. You can't help anyone if you can't help yourself. And that's the journey that I'm on. That's what he reminded me of. I've been playing the part of someone who's already completed this journey, but I haven't. It became incredibly exhausting to uphold this image that wasn't really me. It was on track with who I wanted to become, and it wasn't wrong what I was doing, but it wasn't who I am right now. I'm just at the start, and that's okay. I still have so much to learn, so many people to meet, and so much time to grow into who I'm meant to become. Wherever you are in your journey right now is where you're meant to be. Embrace every moment for exactly what it is, and remember why you're here. Ask yourself difficult questions. Ask yourself why you're feeling the way you do right now. Is it the people that are around you? Is it the character you're trying to play? Or is something missing from your heart that only you can find? Do whatever you got to do to tune everything and everyone else out and wait for your inner self to provide the answers. Maybe that takes staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning in a bedroom that's way too warm, a bed that's way too small, sandwiched between your girlfriend and your dog. Hopefully not, but maybe that's what it is for you. But I can tell you right now, I've never felt more clear about what I want to do, and it starts with me. Maybe I just needed to know someone believed in me. Maybe I just needed to believe in me personally, but I couldn't have come to the realization without asking for help, and ironically, without prayer. So I ask you today not to pray, but to think about where you find God. It doesn't have to be for religious reasons, but where's the place in your life that the rest of the world just ceases to exist? And you can just think and dream freely. For me, for whatever ungodly reason, that seems to be at 3 o'clock in the morning. But think about what that place means to you. Go to that place and just sit there and listen. Like, no matter what you do, there's still going to be trials. There's still going to be challenges that you need to face before you can become who you want to be. And that's okay. There's no shortcuts on the path to greatness, and success begins at the end of your comfort zone. Shout out to April for the quote. Thanks so much to anybody who stuck around to the end of this video. I hope that you're able to find peace in the message and some clarity in your life. If you haven't heard it, go ahead and give a listen to the song. Even if you're not a country music fan, just listen to the story behind it. As you all know, the best thing about Ground Zero is that there's nowhere to go from here but up. I hope everybody had a great day.
So obviously you just saw the video that I posted, and that was really the product of extreme weight of stress being kind of lifted all at once due to a realization that I've been waiting to hit me for a really, really long time. And I mean, and that was really the first time that I've really gotten behind the camera and posted something on social media like that. You can ask April. She's been working closely with me for a long time and telling me that I need to do it. And that was really the first time that I've done it. And I just felt so compelled to share what essentially had happened. And it was the first time, like I said, that I'd really shared anything personal, that I really shared anything at all on any sort of, social media or anything like that, and just kind of put myself out there for everybody to see. But, at that point in time, it just felt like I needed to essentially share what had happened. And I'm going to talk more about that here soon. But that was just a little bit of like where that came from. But anyway, just for some backstory from where a lot of that came from. A lot of you have already heard my story. You know about the fact that I've had to step away from the sport that I love to discover and pursue another passion. Like, what I mean? A lot of you have heard that story before. And you know that after that, I discovered both building wealth, financial freedom, and entrepreneurship. And since then, I've felt a calling towards both. From a financial standpoint, one of these things doesn't really belong. So one brings extreme stability, peace of mind, more control over your time, more control over your money, more control over the things happening to you and your family on a day-to-day basis. An image that I am highly attracted to, but may not bring a full amount of purpose in a sense. The other option brings more excitement, more challenges, more uncertainty, and could bring a very high level of stress as well, which is an image that doesn't seem as attractive in the moment, but yet I still feel a calling towards that thing. Anyway, I've been plugged into different sorts of content for almost 2 years now, following both of these things, really since, like I said, the very beginning, that original Ground Zero. And I was doing my best to pursue both simultaneously. But, with a full class schedule, with, homework for said classes, with a busy family, April, obviously you can appreciate that. I do not have children, but I do have a busy family. In this past fall, I also picked up, coaching basketball as well. I didn't have all the time in the world to allocate to everything that I wanted to. So when my schedule got busy enough, I had to kind of start making decisions for one thing over the other. And did I want to read books about personal finance, or did I want to read books about leadership or about business? It's not that both can't be done, but personally, I like to read one book at a time. I try to stay focused on one thing at a time so I can try to, take in as much of that message as I can and then put it into action. So in this case, I was pretty much forced to choose. And these types of decisions started to sprout up more and more as time went on. And they really started to cause this subconscious tension inside of me. And, I always felt like I was doing good things. I was moving in the right direction, and there wasn't anything wrong with the work that I was doing. But I didn't feel really fulfilled, because no matter what I chose to do, I felt that there was always something that I wasn't getting done. There was always something that I wasn't getting to work on. There was something I wasn't paying attention to. So, like I said, there was always something that I was neglecting in order to pursue something else. And no matter how much I learned or got done with, whether that be personal finance or entrepreneurship, I would still feel guilty, because during that time that I was working on that thing, I wasn't making any progress towards the other goal, towards the other thing. This, just like I said, continued to fuel this internal battle between these callings that, I guess you could call them. That's what I considered them at the time. And I just felt like I was being pulled constantly in two different directions. I would say literally split down the middle, but hey, I don't know. And every decision I made had to be towards one or the other. And every decision I made felt like it was going to be wrong. So this just brought an extreme amount of stress towards literally every decision that I made in my everyday life. And because I felt like whichever one I chose, I was going to have to neglect the other one. And I quite literally felt like I had the devil talking on both shoulders all the time. And I felt really, really lost for, I won't say the first time in a long time, but it was the first time I'd felt this lost in a long time. And as I said, I was taking steps in the right direction, but I really just felt like I was spiraling all at the same time, because I was so depressed and stressed out that I was really struggling to keep going, to stay motivated. And because no matter what I did, I was being constantly berated and attacked by some internal enemy that sounded just like me. And I can personally tell you that my personal version of depression rears its ugly head in the form of verbal attacks in my own voice. I have always been extremely hard on myself my entire life. And that's one of the reasons I am where I am, but it's also one of the reasons I deal with some of the mental issues that I do. And man, is it difficult to stand up to an enemy that knows everything about you, whether that be your dreams, your failures, your secrets, your desires, everything. How exactly are you supposed to face an enemy that knows everything about you? And one, I don't want to claim that I have the answer for that, because I don't have a good answer for that, but somehow I just kind of kept going. And a really good example of this would be recently job searching. As we've talked about, here a lot recently, I'm just about to graduate here in less than a month. When this comes out, will be right about the time that I am doing so. And like it or not, I kind of have to join the quote unquote real world soon. So I had to think very long and hard about what I wanted my life to look like once I stepped out into that, world. And I had two main opportunities that I was spending most of my time focused on, two main opportunities that I wanted to pursue, among some others. But one was to work with a startup in the real estate industry, clearly a more entrepreneurial option. I would have the opportunity to learn a lot of different things very, very quickly, and physically help build a business, help build and scale a business, and really get the blueprint of what it's like to run a business in the real estate investment industry laid out to me over the course of roughly 2 years. Whether or not that could be accelerated or anything, I don't know. But and they offered to train me in everything, in a chance it was a really big chance for me to build a lot of really, really good experience being someone that wants to build businesses one day, especially one of my own. And it would give me the opportunity to basically be in a sort of like upper management position by the time I'm like 23 years old. And only downside of that is, since this was a startup, that they don't really have a ton of leftover funds to offer benefits packages or different things like, or, a ton of, pay. So I would have to be coming on as an independent contractor in said position where, that is taxed differently. And I would have to withhold everything essentially myself. And as well as covering my own health insurance and retirement if need be. And the position might require a little bit of travel as well, or even potentially relocation. So that being said, that is a, pretty big deal. Being someone that's always been close to my family, that was a really difficult thing to wrap my head around because I don't really know what being away from home looks like. Obviously, I've traveled, not, for extended periods of time, but I have gone on vacations without my parents. I have done different things. But even when I went away to college, I'm only 45 minutes from home. Like, if something happens, I can be at home within the hour. I can go home for dinner. I can go home for whatever I want. Literally last night was my little brother's birthday. I drove home just to have dinner with him and see the family, and that's an option with where I am currently. Excuse me. But if I were to take said opportunity, that's not exactly an option. And I could very quickly potentially become that relative that you only see on holidays, because I would be far enough from home that I can't just come home for dinner anytime that I want to. I mean, yeah, technology is great. I can FaceTime anytime that I want, but that's not the same. That's not, being able to come home and physically hug somebody. That's not the same as of being in the presence of that person, of your family. So I didn't know how to feel about that. And as I said, I was very close with my family. So how was I supposed to choose? How was I supposed to choose between my career and an opportunity that I really wanted to pursue and my family that obviously holds a very big place in my heart? On the other hand, I had an opportunity to work as a part of a basically media content team at a marketing agency. Obviously a little bit more corporate option and a little bit more secure, where the pay was going to be more than what I would be making at the startup. And they had a really awesome offering of benefits, different packages and things that I could opt into if I chose Jesus to do so. So again, it was basically a matter of, do I want to choose something more entrepreneurial, or do I want to choose something more financially secure and closer to home? This opportunity was only really like a half an hour drive or so away from home. So once again, I would be in a position where, even if I lived close to work, I could be at home anytime that I chose. So I was still, right there with family if I ever needed to be. So again, this provided a choice that, like, out of school, I'm probably not just going to go jump into another apartment right away. If I wanted to, I could have the option to live at home, that I could save money until I was in a better position, whether that be on rent, groceries, etc. And I obviously, like I said, if I'm living at home, I'm with family all the time. But I will say that some of my family matters get a little bit complicated. And that's a rabbit hole we won't go down, but I did just kind of want to throw that out just because there's a lot there as well that kind of like goes into that decision. But anyway, there was a part of me that felt like if I were to pursue the other opportunity, that I was essentially abandoning my family, to where, like I said, like I'm a very big proponent, family is a huge part of my life, where I don't specifically want to be that far away where I can't see them anytime that I want to, that I can't talk to them anytime that I want to. So I felt like if I was just to up and leave, that I was basically leaving everyone high and dry. And, I don't really know how else to like describe that, but there was a part of me that felt very guilty about making that decision if that's what I did choose to do. So at least if I'm here now, like I can be there physically, right? And we do have I have a little cousin at home. He's a baby. that I can help babysit if need be. I can do different things along those lines, like physically, I can be there in presence, even if that's just, coming home for dinner, where, like I said, with this other opportunity, I'm not really in a position to do that. And I'm not really in a position, obviously, right now. I'm coming out of school with debt. I don't have, I do potentially have a job secured, but I don't really have, that yet. So I can't really provide anything financially. So at this point, it's just my presence. I can be there if need be. So where if I were to take the opportunity with the startup, I would be what I consider a little bit more than a stone's throw away from home. But I'd be having the opportunity to build extremely high quality skills in an environment that would really allow me to accelerate both personally and professionally. But I'd be away from home. So honestly, I was going to have some form of FOMO one way or another. I was going to be, and that's something I was dealing with internally, that I was either afraid that I was going to miss out on a lot of things at home, where, like I mentioned, I have little cousins at home that, I do care about them and I want to be a part of their life, where, like, the baby's less than 2 years old. If I go away for multiple years and come back, is he going to know who I am? I don't know. It's different, and it's something that I was taking into effect, and maybe it's not something that I really should have been that worried about, but I was. And it's something that, I want to be a part of his life. I want to be a part of my other little cousins' lives. And, I don't like, even just recently, like, my little brother has really grown into what I would consider one of my closest friends. And, he is graduating here in a little under a month. And it's absolute insanity to me, because I still remember him, as the little brother, but, he's getting ready to start his life as well. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be here for him as much as I can. But if I'm there, can I do that? I don't know. And, not that it can't be, but like I said, it was a very difficult thing for me to process, because one way or another, I was going to be missing out on something that I cared about. So I had to choose, like, how are you supposed to choose between two things that are so important to you? And I was extremely stuck in this dilemma, really, up until having a conversation with one of our guests. That the episode hasn't been released to date, but it will be by the time I think this comes out. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to name him by name, but we had a conversation just really just after recording, our general episode for the show. And he really just started asking me a lot about, like, my plans and what I wanted to do post-graduation. And in our conversation, he asked me a lot of really, really deep questions that I think I needed to hear and I needed to go through, that I wasn't really able to ask myself. And, like, this is where I say, like, some of the things you led with prior to, playing the clip and then telling this story, is because sometimes you just need to hear it from somebody else. And I was at a point where, like, I was just so, like, mixed up in the stress of the situation that I couldn't really think straight to actually be able to ask myself those internal questions and think that out. So anyway, a couple of really big takeaways that I got from our conversation was that basically you're going to have to choose your FOMO one way or another. You have to basically choose, what are you essentially going to be more willing to give up in the long run? And, I know that sounds really crappy in terms of, like, the fact that you still have to choose, because it doesn't feel like you should have to choose. That was one of the things that I struggled with the most, was I didn't feel like didn't feel like I should have to choose between two things that were so important to me. But when you think about it, like, would you rather miss out on spending time with them now and be able to pursue a really awesome opportunity where you're able to build extremely high quality skills over a couple of years, and then potentially be able to come back and spend time with them physically and help out financially as well? Or would you rather, choose an opportunity that's essentially more stable financially quickly, and you get to stay here, but you miss out on the opportunity that you have to work and, build experience in that industry? So you really had to, like, him and I really kind of tried to, like, break that belief down, where we'd say, like, Like, I know it sucks, but what are you essentially more willing to give up? And, in that conversation, we talked about a few different things that essentially there comes a time in your life where whether you like it or not, you're going to have to choose to be selfish. And I'm somebody that I don't like to be selfish. I like to put the needs of others above myself more often than not, especially those of my family, somebody that I care so much about. But at some point or another, he told me, like, you're going to have to choose what's right for you over what's right for everybody else. And decisions that were made within my family and that led to the current situation that they're in, I don't have to take responsibility for. And it's not necessarily my responsibility to fix them. That was decisions that were made as parents and as a family. But it's not exactly my responsibility. And it is something that I do have a goal and an ambition to help with, but it's not necessarily something that I have to take personal responsibility for. And, that point helped me a lot just in kind of ironing out where I felt I needed to be in the role that I needed to play, as a son, as a brother. And just, yeah, he helped me bring a lot of clarity to that specific situation. But I know I've kind of been going for here a long time, but it also looks like your hands are full. So I don't want to ask too much right now. I was going to open it up if you wanted to talk about anything right now before I continue. I do have a little bit more here, but I don't want to just completely dominate this at all.
No, I mean, this really is your time to talk through everything and be as public as you want about your experience, which I do think is super powerful coming from the student perspective. As you really talk to a lot of professionals, this is just very different, but this is the real ground zero from someone who's looking to get to that professional level. So I think there's a couple things that I guess I was just a little unclear, but I guess I didn't realize that you had these other opportunities that were not remote. I had no idea that there were things that you were looking at doing that were supposed to be within driving distance. I thought everything that you were working on was all online. So I'm sorry if I ever seemed hard on you for not understanding everything that you were balancing, because I really just thought that the only thing that you were looking to do was in the real estate world, but more of the administrative role that we had talked about with said company that you actually haven't even covered yet. So that definitely is a lot. Now, for me, I feel bad because I can't relate on that same level and really offer any guidance as far as the whole family thing, because the only family I have is the one that I've created. I don't have, mom and dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, anything here. There's nothing holding us here. You can see I have a 3-year-old here who learned how to say the word frog, but it doesn't come out as nice. So I quickly put on my my mute button for a moment there. Okay, you can go sleep. You want to go sleep in your bed? Okay, go sleep in your bed. That's not your bed. Go sleep in your bed. We might have to edit some of this out. But okay, fine. Sleep in Roman's bed. Here. There you go. Here's your blankie. You're gonna be quiet? Okay. Okay. So when you were talking about having this loyalty to your family and not wanting to leave and being close to your brother and, help with your mom for everything that she's taken on, I was thinking that like, you can be a little selfish. That wasn't anything that you took on. That's not your responsibility. But at the same time, you also have this level of loyalty, where you have that relationship with your mom. You want to be there for her and you want to help her. You don't want to be so far gone. You have this relationship with your brother. And I would give so much to have that. And I don't. I'm sure your family would want you to go and do more with the opportunity. And the thing is when you really care about having that relationship, you will make it work. I mean, with your brother, so this is where things get a little fuzzy, because you have this mentality of wanting to be close, and maybe it's like a people pleasing thing, but what if your brother had no problem traveling and going. It's like you want to be here for him, but are you waiting on him to make a decision before you feel comfortable to make a decision to go wherever that may be? Now, if your opportunities are more remote on top of like being local to this area, then start with that. Start with, okay, am I going to be in another apartment here? Am I going to make some kind of an investment? Am I going to live at home? Whatever that living situation looks like, I highly encourage you to, actually, let me rephrase that. I don't. See, I'm kind of caught in between. And this is probably where you get frustrated with the financial part of it, because there are so many opportunities in other areas that could propel your career to move so much faster with the network that you'd be able to build if you moved. However, it's very clear that the cost of living to be in that area is going to be much higher. And you're already coming from, I have no income. So you kind of already have like a zero flat baseline to go off of. But at the same time, I would hate for you to go and spend that money and make those decisions just for, the freedom and the adventure of it, when you could just stick here a little bit longer, get to a financially stable position, figure out what that move looks like, and then go. See, if I were your age and I had these opportunities and I had the mindset that you do, because I know you have a very adventurous mindset, you want to do these things, you want to travel, you want to go places, I wouldn't know what to do. And it's only because of the financial aspect of it. So I can see where you get frustrated. And I'm sorry, I don't want to sit here and talk in circles, but it even feels frustrating for me kind of a little bit to try to help you figure out, because I'm at a whole different point now for myself. But the thing that actually does irk me a little bit is, I don't know if you know just how valuable your network is. I'm hearing you talking about these two opportunities that are local here, whereas, Aaron, I know you could make so much more money working remote right now with the network that you already have. So we could talk about some of that. Maybe we could talk about why you haven't taken advantage of some of that. I know that I've tried to encourage you to get more involved in that way because you have skills that are so marketable. Yeah, I would love to hear more about why you're not taking advantage of the network that you already have, because you could have income tomorrow.
Yeah, so one thing I did just want to touch on real quick was that like with the startup position that we were talking about, it wasn't like relocation or nothing. It would be remote, but with just like occasional travel. And it just got to a point that, like, in thinking about that, is it better to stay here and travel whenever need be, or is it better to just relocate there and then obviously not have to travel as far? In either way, relocation probably wouldn't be for roughly another year or so, give or take. I can't do it immediately, but that is just something that was like on the table. I did just kind of want to like clear that up for just a second. But I mean, that opportunity itself has come from my network. So I won't necessarily say that I haven't used it, but I can't necessarily say I've used it to my fullest extent either.